저는 민신입니다. Hello everybody, I'm Ariel Lin. 大家好，我是林依晨。민신입니다. Hello everybody, I'm Ariel Lin. 大家好，我是林依晨。대만 연예인으로서 이 뜻깊은 이 뜻깊은 정말 감사합니다. I hope and I know there will be more and more cooperation between us in entertainment industry in the near future. Really looking forward to it. Thank you.
In this footage, you can see this beautiful actress speaks 3 kinds of languages. One is Korean, another one is Mandarin Chinese, and the third one is English. Remember, in Unit 5, Lesson 2, which is about the future of language, multilingual languages speakers are the trained. And then I hope you can learn something from this footage and to know the importance to learn another second language besides English. As for me, I like Spanish, and I will try to find some time to learn it. But are you happy to learn another second language besides English? I think you have put down some benefits of learning a second language on the discussion session. Well, but you will feel painful sometimes because, for example, when I am learning Spanish, I am troubled with the pronunciation of the letter R, and it's quite difficult to memorize the gender of nouns, adjectives, and pronouns, etc. But take my advice. When doing something and you want to do it well, remember, no pains, no gains. All right? So I hope in the future you will become a multilingual speaker, just like this beautiful lady. And end of the review. Let's get started with the new lesson. The title is left-handedness. Can you imagine the life of left-handers and how they feel when they are living in a world designed to right-handers? Do you think they are painful? If any one of you is a left-hander, please tell us how you feel in the discussion session. I'm curious about this kind of experience, and because I don't know any left-handers. Well, so you are so welcome to give your opinions. And I want to tell you a joke. John had a car accident, and he lost his left hand and leg, and from then on, he is always right. Here, right is a kind of pun, P-U-N. Pun means a word that conveys 2 meanings. One is literal, and another one is so-called connotation. Here, right, of course, means right-handed, and also means correct. All right. So from the language, you can see there is bias about people who use different hands. I don't know if you have experienced the correction of using your left hand. When you were a child, if you used your left hand to do something right, I think your parents would correct you or even force you to use your right hand. So maybe you are born left-handed, but when you are growing up, you are forced to become right because right is right. My parents, for example, used to force me to use my right hand their reasons were uh, because the words of the right left-handers is easy to be identified. That means if you commit crimes and you leave some clues of writing, you will be identified quickly by the police just because you know the words written by left-handers is easy to be identified. I don't know if you can accept this kind of reason, but a lot of superstitions, a lot of ridiculous reasons to make the people believe it is not right to become a left-hander. All right. Do you know these people? There is one thing common among them. Are they celebrities or are they politically powerful presidents or are they smarter? Maybe, all right. Some of them have some qualities of what I mentioned, but one thing is very certain: they are all left-handers. Before I get started with the lesson, I want to ask you some questions. The first one is I mentioned before: right is right, and that is all right. It means differently to different people, especially in language. I hope you can find out, or maybe later on you will find out in the lesson. And then the second one: why do you think scientists tend to study left-handed people? Just because they are mysterious, or they are minority, or just as the people I show you, they are most of them are celebrities or smarter. The next one is: do you think left-handedness is caused by genes or practice? Which means people are born left-handed, or by practicing, people become left-handers, and in that way they can use both hands very dexterously, and they are strong with two hands. And number four: do you think left-handed people are more creative and special in some fields? I think that's maybe one of the reasons that the scientific want to find out the mysterious or mm, special reasons for people who use their left hand. All right, let's start with the first paragraph. It's a very short one, and just 2 points I want to get your attention. The first one is: some people prefer to write or do things with their left hands. Mm, because a lot of people use their right hands, so it's normal. People were not surprised to see some people are using right hands. And the second one is: some people might be lefties, but they were first to use their right hands. I just mentioned, yeah. And then before we want to know why people are left-handed handers, then we have to look at our brain first. Okay, as we know, the brain is divided into two hemispheres, left and the right. And in most right-handers, the left part controls language and logical thinking. That means that is where they do their math problems and memorize vocabulary. As for the right hemisphere. It controls how they understand broad and the general ideas, all right, and how they respond to five senses. In this part, I think uh, they are more about instincts and senses of beauty. All right, so if people have a stronger right part of the brain, maybe they will become musician or artists in the future. All right, and then let's see the relationship between your different hemispheres and your different hands. Okay, as we know, both sides of the body receive the same information from the brain because the hemispheres are connected. All right, so it's clear. All right, our brain is separated in a kind of imaginative way, but the left parts, the left hemisphere of the brain controls the right side of the body. So therefore, in right-handed people, the left hemisphere is stronger, and vice versa. The left part, the right part of the brain is related to the left hands. Okay, so in left-handed people, it is the right hemisphere that is stronger. All right, so it that's no wonder, different handness will cause differences in people. Let's find out in next lesson. Okay, the main idea is the relationship between a brain and the left-handers is very special. As we know, the right-handers have the stronger part of the left side of the brain, but you know, as for the left-handers, most of them can use the both parts of their brain. So, especially for language. So, you see, 40% of left-handers have the language center in the right hemisphere. The other 60% use the left side of the brain or both sides for language. Then it doesn't mean left-handers have a stronger right side of the brain only. They can use both brains very easily. So that's why some left-handers are good at speaking. Take Barack Obama for example. He is very famous for giving brilliant speeches when he was a president. Okay, and then as we know, the left-handed people, their whole body is left-handed, which means they prefer not just left hands, they also prefer left foot. Okay, and then in the next paragraph, we are going to know about the features of the left-handers. Their features are very obvious. The first one is they are more likely to have good imagination. Just as I mentioned, um, we know a lot of famous artists are left-handers. Michelangelo, Da Vinci, okay? And then the second one is they enjoy swimming underwater. The reason is because they adjust easily when they are swimming underwater. They can see things clearly than the right-handers. And then the next one is they have an advantage in sports in the combat because they use their left hand or left foot, and in this way they can surprise the other team. All right. And then in the next paragraph, we are going to uh, see their trouble in the daily life. All right. Left-handers give people a lot of trouble. There are two examples here. The first one is some left-handed children see letters and words backwards, which means they read D for B and W for so. And another example is about stuttering. Some left-handed children start to stutter when they are forced to write with their right hand. And here, uh, the example is about Queen Elizabeth II's father, King George VI. All right. I don't know if you have watched the movie The King's Speech. The King's Speech is based on the true story of this king, George VI. He was forced to use his right hands, and in that way, he became a starter uh, all his life. All right, and later on, I will show you the trailer, and you know, after he was directed by uh, instructor of languages, he became uh, a more fluent in speaking. Actually, he didn't want to be the king because he lacked confidence. Uh, as we know, he started all his life. But his elder brother didn't want to be the king because he wanted to marry a divorced woman from America. He gave up the right to be the successor of the throne. And then uh, George have had no other choice. He had to take the power, and as a leader, he had to be fluent in speaking because there are a lot of occasions he had to give speeches, especially at that time. World War II just happened, and then he had to give speeches to encourage his people to arouse their emotions. All right. So in the movie, you will see how he suffered in the process of correction, and you can see his anxiety and his uh, friction, and you will understand later on if I show you the trailer. And later on, he uh, he gave the speech, and that part was quite inspiring. And of course, he did it. He encouraged his people at war. All right. And then before that, we have to finish something else. All right. Uh, the next trouble is about writing. Okay. It can be very difficult for left-handed people to write with their left hand. This is because the position they have to hold their pen when they write from the left side of the page to the right side. If they do not lift their hand from the paper, they can smudge the ink. Smudge means, to make some dirty mark, right? And if they lift their hand from the paper, it's harder to control the pen. All right. So, uh, from these two examples, or we should say three examples, we can see uh, how uh, left-handers have experienced a difficult part of life, and then how they feel in their growth. Okay, and then next one is that is the kind of conclusion of paragraph 10 and 11. We know the way these writing systems have developed through time means they are still more easily written by right-handed people. I hope you can study these two paragraphs by yourself. Uh, that is a kind of history of writing and history of uh, you know problems for the left-handed people.